The college baseball conference tournament preview on the college baseball experience for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN, and get a $25 deposit bonus. And welcome into a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside the one and only Johnny Venezia, Johnny VTV. What's going on, my man? How did the last weekend of the regular season treat you, and how excited are you for conference tournament week, the Holy Grail?
Dude, it was great. It was a very strong final weekend of the season. I mean, it wasn't huge. It was almost 5 units positive, but we ended the final day, 3-0 with a clean sweep of 3.1. That's exactly how you want to end it and build some momentum for the postseason. And that's what it's always about for me. And, I think this weekend is probably the hardest weekend in all the postseason.
It is.
Because you're trying to decipher multiple different things. In conference tournaments, you're trying to figure out pitching because you have teams that are either trying to convince the committee to get them in. You have bubble teams like Oklahoma State that they're probably in at this point, but another win or two solidifies them. Virginia, same story. Or you have a team like, say, West Virginia, that another 2 wins might be the difference whether they host or not. Or you have a team like Oregon that another win or 2 might solidify them as a top 8 national seed. Or you have a team like Vanderbilt that's locked into a top 8 seed and nothing they do is going to help or hurt them going into June. And you have games from Tuesday to Sunday in some cases. So trying to figure out the pitching and how the format's going to go with some teams having to play 5 games in 6 days, it's very difficult. It's a lot of baseball, and to me, that is really the most difficult part of figuring this out. So that's why you got guys like us coming in here trying to give you the best advantage that you possibly can have coming into the conference tournament weekend.
Yeah, this is my favorite time of the year, not only just for college baseball, but when college basketball conference tournaments roll around, it's the last time that we get a chance to watch a lot of these teams play. 80% of the country play baseball. And a lot of those guys are going to hit the portal, and then there'll be power conference players, or a lot of those guys can get drafted, and then now they're in the minor leagues, attempting to climb their way into the majors. It's like the last time that we kind of get to see these groups of guys play baseball. And, it's just 1 week, which is chaotic, from 9 a.m. Eastern to midnight Eastern, probably a little bit even past it too, with some rain delays. It's a lot of fun. And I am here every single day, nightly. That's when Noah B at night comes alive, when I'm doing like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. shows, when odds drop and handicapping pitchers and whatnot. Johnny mentioned it, how it's a tough week because it's like, who's even going to pitch for some of these guys? But that also creates some advantages if you're able to predict it correctly. And, the books just throw out that label line without knowing who's going to throw. And if one team's got a really good arm available on MLB rest and they're going to be aggressive with their arms, then it creates some advantageous situations. And we're not going to waste any time with this show. It's going to be a jam-packed show. We're going to talk about and preview 10 conference tournaments on this episode. We're going to start off with none other than the SEC down in Hoover. The 1 seed goes to Texas. They ran away with the regular season. The 2 seeds, Arkansas. The 3 is LSU. Vanderbilt is the 4 seed. They all earned double byes. The 5 seed, Georgia. The 6 seed, Auburn. The 7, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. The 8 seed all have a single bye and will begin play on Wednesday. But the tournament begins tomorrow, Tuesday. I believe it's 10:30 Central Time is their first game. And it's Alabama, Missouri, the 9 versus the 16. The 12 versus 13, Oklahoma and Kentucky play each other. The 10, Florida plays 15, South Carolina. And Mississippi State, the 11 seed, plays Texas A&M, the 14 seed. In the SEC, we do have betting odds for 7 of the tournaments that we're going to talk about on today's show. Arkansas is the favorite at plus 260. LSU's plus 400. Vanderbilt plus 600. Texas plus 650. Tennessee plus 650. Georgia plus 750. Auburn 13-1. Ole Miss 18-1. Florida 20-1. Texas A&M 28-1. At 30-1 is Mississippi State and Alabama. 50-1 Kentucky. 60-1 Oklahoma. 200-1 South Carolina. And 500-1 Missouri. Johnny, lead us off. Take us wherever you want, whether you want to talk about some storylines, whether you want to just jump right into it, give out your handicap for who you think is going to win this tournament. It's a single elimination format. Go ahead.
I'm glad that you put up the brackets up here so everybody can see. So, you could get a visual of what I'm talking about. And with these tournaments, a lot of it has to do with what I was talking about before. Pitching is huge. Yeah. But in addition to pitching, this year the SEC is going to a single elimination format, which is going to change things a little bit because in lieu of the single elimination from the double elimination, now you have these top 4 teams that have a double bye instead of just a regular bye as years past. So the top 4 teams only have to win 3 games in order to be the champions here. Listen, in college baseball, I'm not a big proponent of teams aren't going to try if they have nothing to play for. Like Tennessee last year had nothing to play for, and they won the whole thing. So I'm not a big believer in that being the case. Now, the pitching aspect is probably the hardest because when you're getting teams that come from the back, like that are playing on Tuesday, they're going to have to win 5 games to win it all. And not only 5 games, they're going to have to do it in 6 days, which means, say they win 3 games, by the 4th day, their pitching's starting to run low. So that's why those teams that are all the way at the end of the bracket there, it's going to be difficult and a tough task for them to win. So you're better off looking at teams that are playing Wednesdays or Thursdays straight off of a bye or a double bye. So let's look into it. Starting at the top of the bracket, Vanderbilt is a team I like at 6-1 for this simple reason. They're going to face the winner of Georgia and either Oklahoma or Kentucky. It doesn't really matter who wins from that first game. I think Georgia's going to end up winning that Wednesday afternoon game, which means J.D. Thompson, who had 8 innings, 1 earned, 14 Ks against Georgia in late April, will face this Georgia team, regardless of who pitches for them. It could be Goldstein as an opener because Georgia's locked into a top 8 seed. So that game doesn't really matter for them. But they're going to be at a pitching disadvantage. And Vanderbilt in that sense, with Thompson going on a neutral field, I like Vandy there. And in the top of the bracket, you have probably Tennessee, who's going to be either Bama or Mizzou, move on to Texas. Texas locked into a top 8 seed, going to face Tennessee, who's probably going to be throwing Liam Doyle on that Thursday because Tennessee is in a situation where they need a couple of wins to give themselves a chance, a remote chance to get that host seed. So Liam Doyle is going to be burned on Thursday, probably against Ruggiero Haas, if I had to guess. That means I think Tennessee's going to win and beat Texas, move on to that Saturday game against Vandy. Then it's probably going to be Marcus Phillips against Cody Bowker or Connor Fennell. Advantage Vanderbilt with the bullpen that they have going, playing much better baseball right now. So I think Vandy gets to the finals. On the bottom of the bracket, it's a lot more difficult because, Florida, I think with the way they're playing and the pitching they have, even in this deep of a format, line up at a relatively decent chance to make the run here. So I think Florida's going to end up playing Arkansas Game 7. That would probably bring them to Liam Peterson Day because Florida's already in, but they're still also fighting for a hosting spot. But I don't think they would burn Peterson on Wednesday. So let's say Peterson goes Friday against Arkansas against Zach Root. That's a 50-50 matchup. I think Arkansas probably wins that because their whole pen is going to be fresh. And then whether Mississippi State or A&M win, chances are Auburn's going to win that game, face LSU. Sammy Dutton against probably Cade Anderson. Advantage for me is going to be Cade Anderson and a completely fresh LSU team. LSU moves on against Arkansas. I like LSU with Anthony Ianson against Gage Wood. I think Ianson, the way he's been throwing, he's been one of the best pitchers in the country this year, one of the hottest pitchers in the country so far in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So give me LSU to advance against Vanderbilt. And I think when it comes to the Sunday matchup, Connor Fennell or Cody Bowker, whoever Vanderbilt throws, is going to be an advantage over whoever LSU throws, probably Case and Evans. So I like Vanderbilt 6-1 over LSU, although I'm taking a ticket on both. LSU's 4-1, Vandy 6-1. Those two to match up in the finals on FanDuel is 10-1. But I think just based on how hot they are, Florida at 20-1 is worth like a half unit play, because every year we see one of these teams that has to play the first round make that run and at least make it competitive. So I think Florida has the pitching if they can get past Arkansas to make that run. So that's why I think a half unit at 20-1 is a decent long shot to take in this format. But I got Vanderbilt over LSU here in this tournament.
Yeah, you did a great job at just going the entire picture. I loved it. There are some pitching matchups where I could see them going opposite ways, whether they are aggressive and go on short rest, or in Florida's case, I don't know what they're going to do with that rotation. Honestly, I'm a little bit more bearish on Florida just in the SEC tournament format. I honestly see them bowing out against Ole Miss. Just get in there, play 2 games, stay healthy, get out. Because this Florida team only has really like 9 or 10 position players, and they are down 4 bullpen arms. So it's actually really crazy that they've been able to still go on the run that they have. But I could definitely see Sully being totally, satisfied with a 2 and out down in Hoover this weekend. My team is a very similar look to you. I like LSU. They would have to face Samuel Dutton is kind of my projection here. It'd be, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, 2 quality teams against Auburn. And then whoever climbs out of that bracket would play LSU in game 1. I have them going up against Dutton again, who, was really good against LSU the first time they faced them, but on the road and in neutral games this season, Dutton just has a 5.29 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tigers, I think they've got a really good Friday, Saturday duo in Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson. They get them to a championship game, and I would love to bet on that. So 4-1 on the Tigers, I think, is definitely worth it. And in the last 3 years, in Jay Johnson's tenure, they've played in the semifinals in the SEC tournament. Last year, they lost in the final. They do not have a SEC tournament win yet. They're playing for a top 8 regional host and national seed. I think they go out there and they have something to prove. And in that championship game, somebody's got to earn that game 3 starter role for a potential regional and super regional. I think it's probably Case and Evans. I think he goes out there and pitches his tail off, and they win the SEC championship.
It's 5-1, by the way, on Caesars. You can get LSU 5-1. But I mean, would you think that the 10-1 on LSU to face Vandy is a good look there, based on how the projections might roll out? Because Vanderbilt wouldn't face any legitimate pitching with Georgia, because they probably miss Brian Curley. I don't think Georgia's going to move up Brian Curley. There's no incentive to do that.
No.
And
well, it wouldn't be moving him up. He threw Thursday last week.
Curley? No, Curley threw Friday.
Right? Oh, yeah,
Curley
he did throw Friday. Goldstein went Thursday.
Yeah.
Right.
And then because Tennessee played Thursday, and they're a little bit more in dire of winning 2 games, because 2 games might make the difference if they host or not. So they would probably move Liam Doyle up. Well, actually keep him on regular rest compared to last week.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's not a bad look. I'm not really confident in them. They're 5-5 in SEC game 1s this season. J.D. Thompson away from home hasn't been like tremendous this year. So Vanderbilt's not really the team that I loved. I don't mind a shot on Tennessee. I don't. There's still plenty of flamethrowers in the bullpen. They got to throw strikes. And this is the time of the year where, some of these guys could kind of come out of nowhere and play pivotal roles in postseason baseball when your depth gets stretched thin in conference tournaments and in regionals. So
Yeah, but
Tennessee
Tennessee's
would
been-
be the team that,
Yeah,
like,
but
they're
I mean,
playing for a regional host. They would be the team that I think could make a run out of the top portion.
Tennessee's been a little light though. I mean, they've been playing awful. I think they've lost 5 straight series coming into here.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you know,
1,000%.
anybody outside Liam Doyle hasn't really performed well. Liam Doyle's coming off a terrible outing at Arkansas. I mean, their bullpen's been very shaky. Nate Snead's been getting it together a little bit lately. I mean, their offense has been lost. I mean, Tennessee's not playing good baseball. And truth be told, like, sure, they could lose the Texas game. I mean, chances are.
Tony Vitello's won 2 of the last 3 SEC tournaments though. So
Yeah, but last year was a different story. Last year they were humming all year. They didn't take a break. And I'm not saying the Vols have no chance. Like, the Vols absolutely have a chance. Like, I've learned my lesson. Like, don't turn your back on a Tony V led team. I'm just saying, in this particular format where, say, they win Wednesday and they win Thursday, depending on what happens elsewhere, that could, in theory, be enough. I'm not saying it definitely will be, but it could be. I'm not saying Tennessee is a bad bet by any stretch of the imagination. All I'm saying is, you know, because they have to play an extra game over a team like Vanderbilt, you never know. They might get into a close one with Bama where they have to use Nate Snead for like 2 or 3 innings. And then say Liam Doyle only goes 6 on Thursday. Then they have to rely on somebody else and, you know, use a couple bullpen pieces. Now you're not as fresh for a Saturday game. That's the only thing for me there.
yeah. Anything else that you want to add on the SEC tournament before we move on?
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this: where do you put Texas A&M's chances? Because we've talked about the A&M quitters ad nauseum the last few weeks, and they lose the series to Georgia. The game 3, they had a chance to win. Their bullpen melted down, and we've seen the real decline of Weston Moss these last 2 weeks. And Weston Moss is actually going to start this game against Ryan somebody for Mississippi State. Like, this isn't a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. Plus, Caden Sorrell is probably not going to play in this one. I don't even know if we're going to see him at all this tournament, depending on how far they go. I think he has I don't know if it's a hamstring or I think it's a hamate bone maybe that he hurt. So, like, what kind of chance do you give A&M to win, you know, 2 or 3 games? Because chances are, like, they have to win at bare minimum 3 to even have a sliver of consideration. 4 gives them a decent chance to get a nod from the committee because they're SEC, preseason number 1, good for the ratings. And then 5 would guarantee them a spot because they'd win it all. Like, where do you put A&M here?
I think they lose the first game. I think
it.
Mississippi State's offense is kind of humming right now. They rake against left-handed pitching, so no matter who A&M is going to throw out of the weekend rotation,
It's Moss. Weston Moss is going.
Oh, well, he's a righty, so that's probably a great decision on a pitcher there for A&M against State. But we've seen this lineup without
Caden
Sorrell, and it just has not been in a great groove. In the beginning of the year when he was not healthy with the hamstring, and now, even against Georgia, they really needed some miraculous pitching performances by Lampkin to get some W's, and they didn't get 2. Missouri at Alabama. I mean, we all know the money line's inflated there, but the total's 14.5. Kentucky, Oklahoma is -115 straight up, even though the Wildcats swept the Sooners earlier this season. We have South Carolina +240 against Florida -330. And then the final game here is A&M -125 against Mississippi State -105. My look there would be Hail State -105 in the nightcap, where I think their fans really seem kind of motivated to always travel to Hoover. Texas A&M, I'm not really sure what that fan base is feeling about this year's team. That's kind of my favorite play and look in the opening round of the SEC tournament. Johnny?
I'm sorry to keep asking you, but all right, let's say A&M wins this game and they face Auburn.
Dude.
What? Fuck,
Go ahead.
man.
You are like trying to get A&M into the NCAA.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm not.
bad.
How many times have I said that they don't have a chance? I'm wondering because, like, we keep doing this all year, and then, this is probably the last time we're going to do it. If they won Tuesday, you think they definitely get bounced on Wednesday against Auburn? Because, like, Auburn's pitching outside of Dutton really hasn't been consistent at all.
Yeah, but their lineup has, and there's much better than A&M's.
Away from home, though, it's not really been the same Auburn team. I mean, we saw what happened. They went to Ole Miss this week. They got put to bed. They got their roses mulched.
It's in their home state.
So. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get you wanting to root on A&M and get them in the NCAA tournament. You can state all the cases that you want. It's a very It's a very uphill climb.
I realize that, but I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are. Like, I know my thoughts, but I'm curious about your thoughts. I think for tomorrow, like the Bama Mizzou game, you're laying 4.5 and 154. I mean, Alabama really hasn't played good baseball. They haven't. I mean, their offense is talented, but it's super inconsistent. Justin LeBron, I don't know what the fuck happened to him. I mean,
he's actually heating up. The last 2 weekends, he's been good.
Yeah, he had a good weekend over the last weekend. But I mean,
2 weekends.
All this kid had to do after like the first couple weeks of conference play was just maintain, and he would have ran away with the Golden Spikes.
He is playing hurt too, though. You know that, right? Because he made a diving play late in March, and then he made an attempt at another diving play and came up hurt in that Florida series. So
yeah, I remember when he dove and got hurt. But I mean,
the second half, he's just not been the same. Which I totally agree with you. But
even before that, he wasn't playing well. Even before he made that first diving catch or the diving stop, he got hurt. He wasn't playing good before that. But so no excuses there. So I think that Bama game, I'm probably going to lay off. I could see it being higher scoring. So 14.5 is a ton of runs. Mizzou's pitching is just awful. Bama's pitching, seeing how they're probably not going to burn Maddox Quick or Zane Adams. It could be Tyler Fay, although I don't think they're going to throw him out on that short of rest. 14.5 on the over seems decent. It's not like an official play. I think Kentucky's pretty strong at 115. It's a coin flip. Like, Oklahoma really hasn't played that good of baseball. Like, Kyson Witherspoon is the only time that I want to bet Oklahoma. The rest of their pitching has been extremely inconsistent. They don't have anybody else that I would be rushing to bet to the window. And I'm not saying Kentucky's pitching is that good either, but like, Kentucky is so much more of a fundamentally sound baseball team, and they swept them like a couple weeks ago. So 115 seems like a good price. I like the Wildcats there. If I was going to make a play on A&M Mississippi State, there's no way I'm laying 125 with Mississippi State. I'd probably lean 105. I don't know if I'm going to have any official plays for Tuesday, just because like it feels a little rushed. I'm not seeing anything that really stands out to me like that, but that's where I would go in terms of any leans.
The merch store right now at SGPN, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, is running a 20% off everything with the promo code DGENS. Go over there, get yourself some college experience merch. We've got hats, T-shirts, plenty of gear over there, stocked in a bunch of different color combinations for your favorite school. And it'll hopefully be at your doorstep by the time that regionals begin. Not this weekend, but next weekend. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by Edge Boost. It's the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. There are no usage fees, no minimums, and you can earn cashback rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits. Go over there, sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. You can deposit $25, and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That is edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Right now, they are going long for their NBA playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in game one, and the longer the series goes, the better the bonus will get. Underdog Pick'em platform is great. You can watch your favorite players. You can earn money based on your entry fee. Go over there, sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're back here on the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia, and we're talking college baseball conference tournaments. We're giving out some picks for not only who we think will win the tournament overall, but some opening game lines have dropped within the last couple of hours. We're going to move on to the ACC tournament. Some of the vertical bracket formats that the conferences are officially released don't fit the stream layout. So I don't mean to do this at all, but I've cut out all conference branding. But as you can see, it is the ACC. Georgia Tech snuck in and took the number 1 overall seed in the conference, winning the regular season on the final day. Florida State's the 2 seed, North Carolina's 3 seed, NC State is the 4. Those teams all have that double bye, the same format as the SEC tournament. The 5 seeds Clemson, the 6 seeds Virginia, the 7 seed is Duke, and the 8 seed is Wake Forest. Your round 1 matchups are the 9 seed Miami against Cal, the 16, Virginia Tech, the 12, up against Stanford, the 13, Louisville, the 10 seed, up against Pitt, the 15, and then Notre Dame, the 11 seed, against Boston College, the 14. North Carolina is the betting favorite right now at plus 250. Georgia Tech is plus 425. Florida State's 5-1. NC State's 6-1. Clemson's plus 750. Duke is plus 800. Wake Forest is plus 900. Virginia is 13-1. Louisville is 25-1. Miami is 35-1. Virginia Tech is 45-1. Notre Dame's 55-1. Stanford is 75-1. Boston College is 200-1. And then Pitt and Cal rounded out at 300-1 to win the ACC tournament. Johnny, I just want to give a moment of silence to my favorite college baseball betting system that is no longer existing. The ACC tournament format, the old one, with all the round robin and the pool play, and it would create some meaningless games, as some people would call it. They had all the meaning in the world for me because it was an 80% plus betting system, as I would just bet against the 0-1 team against the team that was 1-0 or hadn't played a game yet. Because in the 2017 tournament, the higher seeded 0-0 or 1-0 teams were 3-0. In 2018, it was 3-1. 2019 it was 2-1. 2021 was the only losing year at 1-2. 22 was 3-0. 2023 was 4-0. And 2024 was 3-0. So rest in peace to the old ACC bracket format and all the D-gens that loved that betting trend. But hopefully we'll get that back with the Big Ten this year because they've adopted that old ACC tournament format. But Johnny, the ACC tournament in the 2025 edition, it's single elimination. Your thoughts, your winner, and kind of favorite storyline or two? Go ahead.
Yeah, pour one out, like you said, for the pool play disappearance. The Big Ten seems to be the only pool play left. I mean, I think it makes sense, but the pool play was kind of interesting. I mean, it was definitely unfair, but in terms of like betting games, it definitely provided a lot of good opportunities.
Yeah.
In this new format, same thing as the SEC, where you have the exact same breakdown. I'm looking at this, and I like what UNC has here, right? So let's look at it this way. Notre Dame, BC. Notre Dame has been red hot. I think they've won 4 straight ACC series. They're playing good baseball. They should beat BC. I think, ironically, their last series loss was against BC. But say Notre Dame wins, they go play UVA. UVA is going to play on Wednesday, and they're going to throw Jay Woolfolk, their best guy. UVA, I think, is in the tournament. And I've been telling you this for 2 months that they're going to get in. But a win or two doesn't hurt their case. It can only help them. So let's say UVA wins that game with Jay Woolfolk on the mound against Notre Dame. That'll move them on to the 3 seed against UNC. Not really sold on the UVA pitching staff right now. It's definitely been better as of late. They still have a ways to go. While I can absolutely see UVA win this game, I'm going to go with Jake Knapp and the fully rested bullpen for UNC, who, by the way, fucked us on Sunday. All they had to do was win, and they were up 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th for a nice 12-unit plus 600 preseason ACC regular season fucking cash. And they didn't do it. Sickening. Jake Knapp, ACC Pitcher of the Year against UVA. I like that matchup a lot. Definitely could see UVA get this one done, but I'm going to go with the Heels. So Heels move on to the semifinals after winning 1 game. Duke's going to play Louisville or Pitt. I think Duke probably wins that, moves on to play FSU in that semifinals or that quarterfinals game. Jamie Arnold on that, which would be a Friday, would probably throw that game. So let's say FSU wins, they throw Jamie Arnold, they burn him against UNC. Now, Joey Vellini's been good this year, but FSU's bullpen, which is why I haven't believed in them all year, is it's an abomination. It's awful. And aside from that, the Seminole starters really in large have not been going that deep into games. You're lucky to get 6 innings out of them on an average weekend. They're starters. So then you'd be going Vellini against either DeCaro or Aiden Hawk. DeCaro threw game 2 last week. So let's say it's DeCaro that goes here. Advantage for me with the bullpen and the way UNC's been playing is the Heels. So they'd move on to the finals. Now let's go on the other side here. I think Miami's going to win against Cal, play Wake Forest. That's a toss-up game. It doesn't really matter who wins because I think whoever plays Georgia Tech is going to lose that game. So Georgia Tech's going to move on there to the semis. Then you have VTech against Stanford. It doesn't matter. Clemson's going to play them on Wednesday. Clemson will win. And then Aiden Canuck will probably throw against NC State. While I can certainly see NC State or Clemson win that game with Canuck, NC State's been playing much better baseball. So I think NC State's going to play Georgia Tech. So it's going to be the 1 through 4 that end up playing each other. I personally think NC State's going to win that game, and it's going to be UNC versus NC State in the finals. And I trust NC State's Sunday guy, which is either going to be DeCaro or probably Aiden Hawk more likely, over what the Wolfpack has. So therefore, even though it's a little chalky, a little chalk latte, I think the Tar Heels at plus 250 would be the bet, but taking NC State around 6-1, 650 is interesting. The only trouble I think NC State would run into is if they go against Aiden Canuck in that quarterfinal Thursday game where Clemson could win because they're going to probably have the pitching advantage. But if they get past that game, I think they're going to go to the finals.
I am looking at a little bit more, I don't know if you want to call them long shots, but they're longer shots than a UNC in the ACC tournament here. My favorite play is Duke plus 800. The big hurdle is Jamie Arnold, but look, they're going to be sleeping in their own beds. The DBAP, Durham Bulls Athletic Park, is a huge, outstanding offensive hitters park. The Blue Devils, they have a really good combination of power pitching, power hitting, and the pitching staff's going to miss a lot of bats while not really walking a lot of guys. I like that identity of, Duke. I don't necessarily love a lot of the guys that they're trotting out, but as a whole, the depth is really, really impressive of the Blue Devils pitching staff. And I think in tournaments like these, where you're going to have to play 4 games, 5 games to possibly win it, if you're one of the teams that don't have a double bye, you need that depth. And I think Duke has quality depth. And another team that I think I'll point to is a team that kind of fits that identity of Duke, where power hitting and a power pitching. This team has a little bit more of a walks issue on the mound, but I like Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest at 9-1 doesn't have too bad of a route to ACC championship here. Also a team that's got a really short drive to Durham. I think they'll be all right against a Miami or Cal. Georgia Tech's probably the tough matchup there. I think it would be close to a pick'em in NC State or Clemson game. And then they're going to be a dog to North Carolina on Sunday in their 4th matchup. But I like Duke and Wake Forest taking shots on those two, just outside of your top 4 seeds. Johnny, any other thoughts on the bracket itself, the seeding, maybe storylines?
Yeah, I mean, you got it's interesting here because you have a team like, so we talked about Virginia getting in, right? But now you have a team like Georgia Tech and NC State that are kind of trying to solidify themselves as a host. I think Georgia Tech and NC State are kind of on that bubble. Like FSU and UNC are going to be, they're going to be top 8 seeds. It's not really That's not going to change no matter what happens this weekend. But the winner, if Georgia Tech and NC State end up playing each other, the winner of that one that goes to the finals, they might find themselves being a top 16 seed and hosting. So I think that's definitely noteworthy. And you look at a team like Georgia Tech who, they really disappointed in the second half. They had a layup of a schedule this year in conference for the most part, and second half they fell off. I know they won again. They narrowly beat Duke, and I think they won the series before that. But they really haven't looked that good. And they won the ACC. That's a big deal. And they're right now not a host. So it's interesting. So I think, should they win 2 games and they're at 21 wins in the ACC or whatever the number is, I think there's a legitimate chance that Atlanta could be getting a host this year.
I think so too. And you got the ACC ACC regular season championship to their name as well. That'll carry some weight. So if you win both, it's probably like an Arizona of last year where they swept the Pac-12. They had an RPI in the 20s, but they got in as a host. I think 1,000% if Georgia Tech wins an ACC regular and tournament championship, they're hosting. I like the NC State look. Even Clemson, as of right now, they're in. But if they win, they're definitely locking it up. Florida State, North Carolina locked up hosts, I think, too. So the games, the opening round games for Tuesday. Got a frog in my throat. Cal and Miami. The total is 12.5. Miami, though, is minus 210. Cal plus 160. Stanford, Virginia Tech. The Hokies are minus 175. Plus 135 is Stanford. Total is 12.5 there. Then we have Pitt, Louisville, where the Cardinals are minus 250. The Panthers are plus 190. And then we've got Boston College, Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are minus 188. The Eagles are plus 145. Do you have a favorite look in the opening round games?
I think just based on how hot they are, Notre Dame's interesting, but I'm not laying 188 on a short week. I think a lot of these are tough matchups. Like Louisville's a 250 favorite against Pitt. Who's going to realistically lay that? I don't really like the opening ones against Virginia or in the ACC. I think Miami has some appeal if you want to throw them in a parlay because Miami looked like a shoo-in after coming back from the dead in the second half for a tournament bid, but they've kind of fallen off the last couple of weeks. And, now their future is a little bit uncertain. So they can do with a win or two in order to bolster their case. I'm not laying 210. I think Miami money line is interesting in a parlay. That's probably what I'd put it at. Maybe like a Miami Notre Dame type of situation here to start off the round 1 of the ACC tournament. That would end up paying plus 126.
I'm going to disagree with this Sunday puncher. I think BC made a great hire at head coach. Todd Interdonato won a lot of games with Wofford, and he plays a lot, a big style of, offensive power, but also a running game. And at BC, where you're not going to be recruiting blue chip talent in the ACC, you have to have a different identity to win. I think it was a perfect hire for BC. They just need time. It's year 3 for him up there. They'll be fine. My favorite look on opening round actually is a plus money underdog, plus 135 Stanford against Virginia Tech. Joey Volchko only threw 2 innings in his game against NC State last weekend, and they are saving him for this opening round game against Virginia Tech because it meant a lot more. So Cardinal, I like them plus 135 against Vatek, and I think they're able to get that one. Miami, I think, is a good parlay piece because that game for Cal will begin at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So, Miami, I think, is a good shout there.
Yeah.
Go.
No, I was gonna say that that makes sense. Just 210's interesting. I mean, I would flirt with the idea of maybe laying the run line 1.5, even though it's 125. I think Miami's probably the home team. Typically, I like to stay away from that, but Cal's got to travel cross country, and they're going to be playing. It's like you said, 6 a.m. their time. That's a tough turnaround for a Cal team that honestly isn't good to begin with. And Miami still got some pretty good pitching, and they got the best player on the field in Danny Cuvée. Joey Volchko threw 28 pitches in game 1 against NC State. He's been a lot better as of late.
Yep.
So I think Stanford at plus money is a interesting look, but like Cal, they're gonna have to travel from west to east. Although the time difference isn't as bad, they're gonna be playing at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that's 10 a.m. That's still a tough turnaround, but I think Sunday Puncher said early start under. Interesting. I don't think that's a bad look.
The college baseball experience is brought to you by Rhythm. They are your home for AI-backed picks and props. You can dominate the NBA playoffs, PGA, MLB, and they just launched their WNBA product as well. Rhythm knows that you're going to love their platform, and that's why they're giving you a 7-day free trial today. Go over there. They have some amazing deals right now. 25% off monthly subscription with the promo code SGPN25, and you can get a 50% off annual subscription with promo code SGPN50. That is Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. You can get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And SGPN is partnered up with Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, as they are giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. The winning league will receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for their entire 12-person league, which is 6 double king rooms. You can hold your draft at a cabana at Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit. You can get limo transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party when you arrive at the Legacy Club for the entire league, a reservation at the world's largest sports book with a $500 beverage credit for the league, a 2-hour open bar package for the entire league at Overhang Bar. The contest runs from May 5th to June 30th. Go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa to enter today. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the NBA playoffs. And for the true D-Gens, there is the MyBookie money bag, where you can get a random future at high odds, whether it's good or bad value. It'll randomize a spinner, kind of like you're hitting a slot machine on sports futures. MyBookie also accepts customers from a ton of locations. It's easy to deposit, and you can get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Go over to mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Its terms and conditions apply. That is mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN. And we are home free on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside by Johnny Venezia, who does great work, writes some articles over at rotowire.com as well for college baseball. And we're running through some of the biggest conference tournaments, previewing them, giving out our picks to win the tournament, giving out some storylines, giving out possible Tuesday picks and bets for all of you guys. We're going to move to the Big 12 tournament. And like I said, with the ACC, kind of had to cut off a lot of the logos and branding for this league to just get their vertical format into a landscape for the stream. But your 1 seed is West Virginia, your 2 seeds Kansas, the 3 is TCU, the 4 is Arizona. Then we go to the 5 seed being Arizona State. They're playing the 12 seed BYU on opening day for the tournament. The 6 seed is Kansas State. They're playing Houston, the 11. The 7 seed is Oklahoma State. They are playing Baylor. The 8 seed is Cincinnati playing Texas Tech, the 9 in the opening round. The Big 12 betting odds for the winner of this tournament goes as follows. TCU is your favorite at plus 330. West Virginia plus 380 alongside Kansas. Arizona plus 500, or Arizona State plus 500. Arizona is plus 800. Kansas State is plus 900. Oklahoma State is 10-1. Cincinnati is 11-1. Baylor 25-1. Texas Tech 40-1, along with BYU. And Houston is 50-1. Johnny, again, I'll let you lead off in the Big 12. Your thoughts on some storylines, teams that you think could make a little bit of a run here, and who do you have winning the Big 12 tournament?
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do right here. Okay, let's get ready. Fuck it. This is, in my opinion, probably the hardest tournament to predict. I mean, you have better teams in the ACC and the SEC, but okay, so you have better teams in the ACC and the SEC, right? But there's legit nobody here that stands out in the Big 12. But you have like 6 teams that can win it. And 6 teams, in my opinion, that are relatively even. So let's start towards the top. Arizona State has juice to win it. But the fact is, as we've learned all year, the Scum Devils are way too inconsistent. Well, let's say Arizona State beats BYU, which they should. They're going to play Arizona. Now, Arizona is a team that I wasn't as high on as you were, but I think in all likelihood, Arizona, with any one of their arms throwing, I mean, Ben Jacobs will probably throw this game, but he's been very shady. He's been very shaky, inconsistent. I think Arizona wins that game. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, I have beating Texas Tech, right? And I think Cincy could beat West Virginia, but chances are WVU will win this game. Arizona beat WVU before. I think the Mountaineers, in an effort to like have a last-ditch effort to grab a hosting spot, because even though they won the Big 12, they're out of the hosting spot right now.
Yeah.
They'll probably end up going Griffin Kern in that first game. So Griffin Kern, who is a lefty, which, you know, it is important, but they'll burn him their best arm. So then Zona would play West Virginia. I think Arizona is better built to beat West Virginia. So I would have Zona going to the finals. I don't think any of their pitching has really stood out. I mean, they have just like a handful of solid arms. They have, in my opinion, the better players in
West
offense.
Virginia probably has the better rotation. With it's Kern, Jack Carsanas, who's got a great ERA. Not like a high voltage strikeout arm, but Chase Meyer is that high voltage strikeout arm who has struggled to limit some of the runs, but he's got like a ERA in the 5s, I do believe.
Yeah, but Kern would probably go that first game against either Cincy or Texas Tech.
No, you're right. I'm not arguing that.
So I think Arizona being a little bit more, I think they're just being a little bit more battle tested this year. It's not like an insanely strong play, because I think, quite frankly, there's better teams in this tournament than Arizona. But I think the path is the most favorable for the Wildcats. So I think Arizona beats West Virginia. I don't know if it'd be Kramkowski or it'd be moving Smith Bailey up or.
So I was about to say Raul Garezar started game 2 last weekend instead of Colin McKinney. I think they moved McKinney out of the rotation entirely last weekend. And Garezar had a pretty good ERA as a midweek starter and long reliever. So that would probably be your name in that second game for the Wildcats.
All right, that's good to know. So we move on with Arizona there. Now the bottom is really where it gets interesting. The bottom's fun. So you got Oklahoma State against Baylor. We were texting this afternoon talking about, like, do you think Harrison Bodendorf would be the starter? Oklahoma State is definitely a bubble team. They've risen from the ashes like a phoenix, like 9 toes in the grave. They've gone nuclear these last few weeks. Listen, this is the hard part about it. I could see Bodendorf definitely go this game because, you know, if Oklahoma State wins 2 games, I don't think there's any chance that they don't get in. I think if they get one game, they're still probably a good bet to get in. So maybe they go Bodendorf here. But let's say with the assumption that they go Bodendorf, right? Who's realistically got a chance to be the Big 12 pitcher of the year. And honestly, I'm trying to look to see who was the Big 12 pitcher of the year. I haven't come across it.
I don't know if I saw it today, but I think it would be Bodendorf. It's Bodendorf, then probably Nathan Taylor and Tommy Lepore, 2-3 in any order.
Yeah, that sounds right. So let's say they go Bodendorf against Baylor, who's been great. Sorry. They win that game. Sorry. Yeah, God.
You and I. Dude, allergies are terrible for me right now.
No, that was agita. Okay. Then they go Kansas. Kansas, maybe Dom Vagley. Dom Vagley in that first game because Kansas is also like trying to vie for a hosting bid. So Kansas, Dom Vagley against either Mario Pescia or Harrison Bodendorf if Bodendorf doesn't go. But let's say Mario Pescia. I mean, Oklahoma State won last year, and I think they do have a path. 10-1 is interesting, but it's a lot of games that they'd have to win.
I like them to win it.
Yeah, I'm not ruling OK State out by any chance because any stretch of the imagination because I think OK State definitely has a path. I think their pitching has a lot of juice, and they've been playing really well lately. So they're going against Kansas here. Let's say OK State wins that game. That could go either way, but let's say OK State wins that game. TCU will probably be either Kansas or K-State or Houston. But the question is, do they use Tommy Lepore in this game? That's a big question because after Lepore, their pitching has been very shaky. And by the way, Lepore has been terrible his last two starts. He's given up 10 earned in his last two. So, but after Lepore, their pitching has been very shaky. It's been very inconsistent. So TCU is vulnerable here in this game 10 spot that you're looking at. Very vulnerable. So say they played OK State, and let's say this is a Sean Youngerman spot right here, right? Because this would be their third game of the weekend. Let's say they go Youngerman against whoever TCU throws. That's winnable. So I think realistically it could be Arizona versus OK State in the finals. I think OK State's got enough juice here to win 3 games to at least get to the finals. So I think Arizona over OK State in the finals strictly only because by that point they would have to be playing their 4th game. And I think at that point their pitching would be depleted. Their bullpen would be shot. I mean, maybe, they save a Hunter Watkins for this kind of game. And I'm not saying OK State doesn't have a chance because I think they do. I think they're live in this tournament format, despite the fact that they got the harder side of the bracket and they have to win 4 games in order to win this. But I like Arizona over OK State. If by any miracle we get that exacta finalist line, that's something that I would definitely bet. But Arizona 8-1 is a good number with the much more winnable side of the bracket.
Yeah, I'll point you to I'll do Oklahoma State at 10-1 and West Virginia at plus 380. I like Oklahoma State for a lot of the reasons that you already mentioned, but also like this is a team that has the best team ERA in the Big 12 in conference play by nearly over half a run. The Cowboys have been pitching it really well, even though Gabe Davis has kind of been a non-factor in that rotation. And Oklahoma State, I was really impressed by their offense, Johnny, opening weekend when they played at Globe Life. Put them in a familiar building, and I think that offense might have, some swagger back. They have had some injuries, and that's been a case of why they are 13th out of 14 in the Big 12 in batting average as a team. But Oklahoma State, I think, like you mentioned, they won it last year in Globe Life in the Big 12 tournament. They play really well in this building. I think there's something to that. I also like West Virginia 3 games in 3 days with the rotation that I think is pretty solid. Cincinnati's a real player, though. I could see the Bearcats threatening. Whether they use Taylor against Tech or Taylor against West Virginia is certainly interesting. And that offense is never dead at all. But yeah, the Big 12 for me has a lot of storylines because I don't think by any means Arizona State, Oklahoma State are safe in as NCAA tournament teams right now. I think also Arizona and Kansas State have been flirting with that bubble a lot for this season. The only teams that I could say that are considerably in as of right now are West Virginia, Kansas, and TCU. TCU and West Virginia are the ones that are kind of on the outside of that hosting bubble looking in and need big weekends here. And certainly I think if one of those two win the Big 12 tournament, they do have an argument of being a top 16 host. So I think there's a lot of storylines in the Big 12. I'm really excited to watch this tournament because this league could get 7 or 8 teams into the NCAA tournament because I forgot about Cincinnati. And right now they're on the right side of the bubble. So I'm excited.
You think ASU is not definitively in right now?
No, I think their RPI was like 47th when Dimitri and I did bracketology for 11.7 the other day.
Yeah, I mean, getting swept at OK State didn't really help them.
No.
I mean, 18 wins in the Big 12 is pretty good.
Yep.
But that's an issue. I think it's an interesting. It's an interesting tournament, and as we know, this is down in Arlington. This is the biggest ballpark that any of these conference teams are going to have to face. This is pretty big, and like you said, Oklahoma State first weekend played in this lineup. This is not an easy ballpark to play in. But I think listen, the Cowboys, in my opinion, they're a fundamentally flawed baseball team. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of variance. But they are fundamentally flawed. But with their pitching, the way it's been, and if their offense, which is high variant, catches the higher side of the variance, there's no reason they can't win 3-4 games in a row.
The opening round of the Big 12, we will see games their opening round's Wednesday, so we actually don't have betting odds on the Big 12 opening round, so that sucks. But be here, tune in tomorrow, because my goal is, the last 3 years, I've gone daily episodes during conference tournament time, helping everybody handicap these matchups, figure out who's possibly going to be pitching for a lot of these teams, as a lot of that's kind of taboo, some gamesmanship between coaches during these conference tournaments. Because if we're able to figure that out and be correct, it's a huge advantage for us against books who are just throwing out the lines based on teams and kind of how their offense and overall performance has been perceived for much of the year. So, that's kind of it on the Big 12, I guess. Because, Johnny, just – first round matchups, any team that you like the most to win that first round game? I'm looking at Oklahoma State. Are you?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma State. I think I probably like Cincinnati. It all depends what the number is. I mean, if we're going based off no numbers, I'd probably say Arizona State, Cincinnati, OK State,
Kansas
State. I mean, I think all the lower seeds are probably going to win. The pitching for the higher seeds doesn't really seem like it has any sort of advantage. I mean, I run into problems with TCU. I know I've seen a couple people say TCU is like a layup. I don't know. I mean, if they beat K-State's not a gimme. I mean, we know K-State is a much different team away from home. So chances are they'll beat K-State. But then they'll probably have to play either OK State or Kansas. That is not an easy matchup to deal with. Those are two teams that are very tough. And, then they'd probably have to play either West Virginia or Arizona. Towards the end of the weekend, I mean, TCU, their pitching is very shady. And the fact is, their offense isn't good enough to compensate for the lack of back-end pitching they have, in my opinion, at least.
The Big Ten. Thank the Lord for the Big Ten in their pool play bracket format. Absolutely love this. Some may be very confused by the graphic, but I cannot wait because, like I mentioned with the ACC, this was a 80% betting system betting the money lines on teams that were 0-1 and mathematically eliminated from tournament play. How do we get there, folks? This is how. We have 4 pools of 3 teams. The 1 seed Oregon is in a pool with Nebraska and Michigan State. The 2 seed UCLA is in a pool with Michigan and Illinois. The 3 seed Iowa is in a pool with Indiana and Rutgers. And the 4 seed USC is in a pool with Washington and Penn State. If either, say pool A for example, if either Nebraska or Michigan State takes a loss early in that Tuesday game when they play each other, the loser is 0-1 and they are mathematically eliminated, because if the entire pool goes 1-1, then the top seeded team moves on into the semifinals. So whether it's Nebraska or Michigan State, if they pick up that first loss, they are done. So then that second game, when they're playing as an 0-1 team and really don't have much motivation, their season has ended because neither one of them have really an at-large chance to make the NCAA tournament. They usually just kind of get swept off the field. It's, kind of non-competitive in some ways. And yeah, you'd be looking at taking a money line. In the Big Ten, though, like the ACC, a lot of the games were perceived to be closer. So you would get odds that were probably like -160, -140 range. In the Big Ten, I'm sensing and kind of fearing that these will kind of near like a -180, -200, maybe even north of that. In this tournament pool. So it'd be interesting to see if we can find some parlay partners for these games. But with that being said, Johnny, I want you to attack it pool by pool. Give us your pool winner based on the schedule. So then wrap it up with your semifinal and then your champ. You can mention any storylines that you're intrigued along the way too. By the way, the betting odds for this thing on DraftKings right now, Oregon is your favorite at +165. UCLA +250. This is important because it's their first Big Ten tournament in Omaha, by the way. Iowa +425, USC +700, Indiana 11-1, Michigan 17-1, Washington 20-1, Penn State 25-1, Nebraska 25-1, Rutgers 50-1, Illinois 60-1, and Michigan State 75-1.
Yep. All right. So thank God they still have the pools, because it's interesting. Pool A, Oregon dominated in their new season to the Big Ten. That was a team that I took middle of the preseason, or not preseason, middle of the season. I wrote up on RotoWire. They were a big minus money. They had to sweep Iowa in the last week in order to get it done. And UCLA had to lose to Northwestern, which they did.
I told you they could.
We talked about it too, and you got kicked off the my podcast on Wednesday night. We're talking about it because we were discussing it. But in any case, here Oregon's got an advantage because they're not going to have to play until Thursday. They're going to play Michigan State, but the advantage is, ordinarily, I would have had a tough time with this matchup because we saw these two teams play a few weeks ago with Grinzel and Jerwa have an absolute pitcher's duel. And Michigan State at home won 2-0. They were both fantastic, but Jerwa out-edged them. And we know Oregon typically has struggled against lefties this year. But the benefit and the biggest winner of Tuesday's matchup is Oregon, because from what I've seen confirmation-wise, Joseph Jerwa of Michigan State, a team that needs to win a couple games in order to have a chance to get in, is going to be
they have no at-large hopes. They need to win the tournament. So you're right.
So they're going to be throwing Jerwa on Tuesday against Nebraska's Ty Horn.
They're going to hope to bring him back in the championship game. So that's the strategy there.
So the point is Jerwa's not pitching against Oregon. So it doesn't matter who wins there. So Oregon's going to play Michigan State full rest, Grayson Grinzel on Thursday. Anybody after Joseph Jerwa of Michigan State, it's an advantage for the Duckies. So I think the Ducks are going to move on there to the Friday game against Nebraska. Nebraska's a layup. Their pitching has been completely done since they lost Mason McConaughey early in the season. So I think Oregon's going to march straight to the Final Four bracket. UCLA, they really haven't played good ball as of late. They really haven't. They don't have a signature win, which, like, RPI is total bullshit. How is their RPI like top 15 and they're in hosting contention. When their signature win this year was against San Diego, and that was before San Diego really started to get going. But in any case, UCLA against Michigan, Illinois, they're going to beat Illinois Wednesday, most likely. Then they're going to play Michigan on Thursday, would also probably win. So I think UCLA is going to march to the Final Four as well. Pool C, Iowa, I would probably say gets that win on Wednesday against Rutgers. Not sure if Obermuller would throw there. That would only be 1 day short rest compared to last week. So let's say Obermuller throws because, Iowa's in an interesting position. They're 22 wins, and I guess they're sort of on the outside looking in, which is strange considering they won 22 games in a Big Ten conference. I know they haven't beaten a fucking team of note, but still. So let's say Iowa goes Obermuller there. Then they would come back to play Indiana on Friday. Now, the interesting thing is, Indiana is a solid, scrappy team. But, I don't think Indiana's in right now, right?
No, they are not.
No. Yeah, Indiana's not in. Let's say, for argument's sake, Iowa gets it done, right? Let's say Iowa gets this one done. So then Iowa's in there with is it Pool B?
Iowa's Pool C.
Pool C.
They would play
B.
So it kind of gets resorted. So teams that are 3-0 would be the number one team, and they would play a 1-1 team, or 2-0 versus a 1-1, and it would probably work out 2-0 versus 2-0.
So I don't think Iowa's beating UCLA or Oregon come the end of the weekend. Pool D, I like Washington here. Washington's going to play Penn State first game. I think I like that for them. And then USC, maybe they save Max Banks for that Friday game against UNC. Max Banks has been automatic. Washington's been great when he's pitched. And Washington's coming off beating USC over the weekend. So I like Washington there. I think Oregon and UCLA probably wouldn't play each other to the finals, I believe. They did a poor job illustrating that. But yeah. I think those two teams don't play each other till the finals. I think considering you're getting both at plus money, I think I probably like Oregon 2-unit plus 165 and probably UCLA 2-unit at plus 2. What is it?
It is plus 250.
Yeah, I probably like them. I probably like to take a ticket on both of them because the only way I see either of them not getting in is if they just don't give a fuck.
Timothy Green, go ahead and rewind it about 20 minutes where we were talking about the Big 12 tournament. I like West Virginia's hopes. I'll say that. I think they're frisky. And you should be frisky if you're the number one seed in the Big 12 tournament. So my handicap every year with the Big Ten tournament in Omaha is which fan bases are going to travel because it's one of the furthest cities outside of the Big Ten footprint. And there are usually 4 teams that play really good baseball in Omaha during the Big Ten tournament. Number 1's Maryland, and they are not in the tournament this year. They didn't have a great year. Number 2 is Nebraska, and Johnny mentioned it, going up against Joseph Jerwa in game 1 and also having Oregon in your pool. I think you can rule out Nebraska. Number 3 is Michigan. They've been in 2 semifinals in the Omaha, in the Big Ten tournament, plus the 2019 College World Series finals. The Michigan fan base kind of enjoys this Big Ten tournament, traveling down, relive some memories from 2019. And they've played really well, whether it be Bakich or Tracy Smith in Omaha in the in the Charles Schwab Field there. So they've done good in the past. And honestly, Illinois, UCLA is not a terrible draw. They get the day off too for some bullpen. It's probably Kurt Barr going on Tuesday for Michigan because he threw that first game on Thursday. So give him that MLB rest type of, turnaround. And it's probably Kurt Barr, who is my favorite guy of the 4. We've got 4 good arms. There's not really an arm that is going to go out there and get you a win on a Friday that you're very comfortable in. So that's kind of the Michigan team in a in a wrap. The fourth team and the final team, and my team that I'm going to pick to win this tournament, because they not only usually have one of the best fan bases in Omaha, it's either Nebraska or this team in that component, but I also think they've got good pitching depth and they've got a better offense than they've had in years past. Give me Iowa. Iowa in a pool with Indiana and Rutgers. I like the fact that Indiana is the second game because their pitching outside of Giller is not that great. And Rutgers' offense is kind of poor this year. So give me the Hawkeyes to get out of Pool C, make a run, win the Big Ten tournament, take it completely out of the committee's hands. I got Iowa winning the Big Ten tournament, and the betting odds on that is plus 425. My pool winners goes as follows. I like Michigan State to ruffle some feathers, get it done. Michigan State, Michigan, Iowa, Penn State. I think it's just absolute chaos in the Big Ten. I like the former teams in the Big 12. All season long, it's been about the West Coast teams in the Big Ten. Now it's their first year in Omaha during the Big Ten tournament, and I think it's those teams that are used to this trip being able to get it done. Did I say Michigan State? I mean Nebraska. Nebraska gets out of Pool A. So Nebraska.
Wow, you think so?
Nebraska, Michigan, Iowa, Penn State. My final four.
You don't think Oregon gets out? I mean, Oregon's a team that, I mean, they're probably a top 8 seed, but I think a couple wins here solidify them.
Iowa's on the mind. Oregon right now is frisky.
Probably, but they're not.
They're fringy top 8. Dimitri and I, when we did our bracketology, we had Oregon in as the 8th seed, but the argument wasn't very strong. It was honestly kind of between them and Oregon State, and obviously you're going to pick Oregon over Oregon State. They have a 4-game sweep over them. Oregon won the Big Ten this year, so that was an easy argument. But if somebody comes in from behind them with a tournament title or a solid resume that doesn't have the Q3, Q4 losses like Oregon does, they've got like 9 bad losses this season. So that's not as pretty. So they could be passed.
But they also beat Iowa on the road, who was number 1 at the time. They beat UCLA and they beat Oregon State. So those are
and USC and Washington.
And they beat USC. Yeah.
So no, I totally see the case. And we had them in as the number 8 seed. So as of right now, the opening round, or not even opening round, just the first day of the Big Ten games, we have odds for Michigan, Illinois is your first game at 11 a.m. Eastern. That's 10 Central in Omaha. The Wolverines are minus 166 against Illinois, plus 130. The total is 14.5. That's probably Barr versus Schmidt, if I had to guess. Then we see Indiana and Rutgers. The Hoosiers minus 195, probably with Giller on the mound, against Rutgers plus 150. And then Nebraska, Michigan State, plus 130 for the Cornhuskers, and Michigan State minus 166. Johnny, your favorite look in those 3 games?
I think it's got to be Michigan State, just with Jarrow on the mound, 166 against Nebraska, a team that is not very offensively inclined. Jarrow's been money this year, man. I mean, this is one of, if not the most underrated, underappreciated arm in college baseball. Plays for Michigan State, plays in the Big Ten, doesn't get a lot of juice, doesn't get a lot of hype. But this is a guy who's firmly in the mix, is probably one of the 10, at least 12 best arms in the country. He's legit, man. And you're only getting him at 166 against Ty Horn, who's got an ERA north of 5. I think Michigan State at 166 is a good price anytime you have a guy like Joseph Jarrow on the mound.
I'm really surprised that Nebraska is not going like a Will Walsh to begin this thing and pitch possibly twice, because he's been a superstar in the Big Ten tournament in his career. But no, I like Nebraska plus 130 against Michigan State.
Wow, you're fading Jarrow?
Yeah, I have them winning the pool. I think they go 2-0. I think they have every year they have the strongest fan base here, 8,000 strong usually. Even though it's going to be 10 a.m., that might be tricky. But give me Nebraska. I think they win.
Wow. That's cray. Motherfucker's cray.
Right. I totally get where you're coming from with just Jerwa on the bump from Michigan State, but we're going to do battle on
Dude, that's your boy. Jer was your boy.
I know he is. Let's talk about the Sunbelt. This graphic is totally weird because the writing was so small.
What the fuck?
The writing was so small and they were on opposite sides of the graphic. So I cropped it. The top part here is the left side of the bracket. The bottom part is the right side of the bracket. There is play-in games as well. There are 2 Sunbelt play-in games that will take place tomorrow. Those are between the 10-seed Appalachian State and 7-seed Texas State. And then we have the 9-seed Georgia Southern playing the 8-seed Arkansas State. Then they get seeded in. The top seed goes into, like the higher seed, I should say, goes into the 1 seed's pool. The lower seed goes into the 2 seed's pool. Our pools right now stand as Coastal Carolina, the 1, and then, God, the writing is so small. It's 4-seed Marshall, 5-seed Louisiana, and then the 2-seed Southern Miss alongside number 3 Troy and number 6 Old Dominion. The betting odds on the Sun Belt, we might not have any due to that play-in round. Oh, no, we do.
No, we do.
Coastal Carolina is minus 140. Southern Miss is plus 190. Troy's plus 550. Marshall 15-1. Louisiana 25-1. Old Dominion 35-1. Arkansas State 40-1. Georgia Southern 50-1. Texas State 60-1. And App State rounds us out with 75-1. If they get out of that play-in game, which is single elimination, into a pool and then win the Sunbelt Tournament Championship. Johnny, your thoughts overall on who you like out of the pools? It's basically a regional, super regional format, almost. Yeah, your thoughts on the 2 winners of the pools and then your champion out of the Sunbelt.
So the problem is with Troy, probably have to go against JB Middleton. So they'll probably have to go against JB Middleton. Troy just got swept by Southern Miss. JB Middleton's a tough one for Troy. So I think it's really Southern Miss versus Coastal. I mean, listen, obviously anything can happen. Sunbelt is interesting always, but I don't really think we need to be overthinking this. I mean, too bad they don't offer a finals matchup. We get Southern Miss and Coastal at like anything plus money is a good bet in my opinion. You're going to get a matchup here where it's probably going to be Graydon Harris against Riley Eichhoff if it was a matchup in the finals between Southern Miss and Coastal. But ultimately, I think Coastal probably ends up winning this. I think Coastal's pitching depth this year, which is unlike anything we've seen from them in a really long time, is going to be the difference. And their hitting, while it's definitely nowhere near as good as it used to be, is still pretty solid. Like they can definitely score some runs. Coastal Carolina's having a great year, man. And I don't think Coastal is going to rest on their laurels because they are probably anywhere from the 9th to the 11th seed right now in hosting brackets. I think that's fair. But if they go out and win the Sun Belt, man, and a couple of these bubble national seed hostings have an off weekend, I think there's a small chance Coastal can steal a top 8 national seed. It's probably not going to happen, but I think they think it could.
I think they've got a shot.
Yeah. So, Coastal Carolina is not really going against a tough field on their side. They wouldn't have to face Troy or Southern Miss until the finals, even at Old Dominion. So I do like Coastal here. But to be honest, I'm not laying 140. I'm just not laying 140 on Coastal for the conference winner. If they ended up facing a Southern Miss or a Troy in the finals, say, then I would just bet that game because that game's probably going to be something along the lines of like Coastal minus 150. And then I don't have to worry about winning 3 or 4 games. So I'd probably wait to see what it looks like in the finals. But I think Coastal Carolina for Southern Miss is probably destined to happen. And I think Coastal Carolina's got the pitching advantage later in the weekend.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I like the championship matchup of Southern Miss and Coastal. I think Southern Miss has a lot to play for, though. I think if they tally a Sunbelt tournament title, they could sneak into a top 16 host seed. Right now, their RPI is just above 20, and I think their resume and athletic director on the selection committee, can't forget about that, could be enough to get them over the edge if they do well this weekend. So I think Southern Miss has a lot to play for, along with Coastal Carolina. I think both of those teams have plenty of motivation. They get to the finals. That big matchup is Southern Miss and Troy on Thursday. And yeah, it's probably the same, JB Middleton, who went 6 strong, I believe, against Troy last weekend. And yeah, I mean, Troy threw off in that game. They were kind of in it. So I'd like to know what could happen if they don't throw Thigpen to start. But yeah, I'd go Southern Miss again, and I think they win the tournament here. That would be.
I think Middleton on Thursday, probably against Troy. I mean, we hammered that on Thursday last week. I mean, that was like 150, 145. I mean, I think if you're getting Middleton anything below 180, I think that's a definite, because, Southern Miss isn't taking it easy here.
Yeah. The American Athletic Conference tournament also begins tomorrow. I think that one's, maybe the ACC being 9 a.m. has passed it, but this used to be first pitch of conference tournament weekend down in Clearwater. The 1 seed is UTSA. They're playing the 9 seed Rice on opening day here. In that pool, it is 4-team pool play, double elimination in pools, and then the winner of the pools will play each other for the AAC tournament title. That is on the 25th, so that's Sunday. But yeah, the first pool is the 1 seed UTSA, 8 seed Rice, 4 seed FAU, 5 seed Tulane. And then we've got the 2 seed Charlotte, the 7 seed Wichita State, 3 seed USF, East Carolina, the 6 seed rounds out that second pool. Betting odds on the AAC. Okay, this is one of the ones that we don't have betting odds. We've got 7 tournaments that have betting odds and 3 that we're going to talk about today that don't. So, Johnny, I'll go to you if you want to bat lead off again. Your winners of the 2 pools, your championship game, who do you have winning the AAC tournament title?
Let me hang on. Let me just double check real quick to see if Caesars doesn't have. Caesars had some fucking shit going on.
All right.
All right. So Caesars does have it. So they have UTSA at 2-1, Charlotte 3-1, ECU 350, FAU 475, Tulane 13-1, USF 16-1, Wichita State 25-1, and Rice 30-1. So I think this is an interesting situation here. We don't really know the pitching matchups yet.
Well, in this tournament, they'll throw their aces in game 1, and then they bring them back on Sunday on MLB rest. I like FAU for that reason.
Yeah,
I like Trey Beard and the Owls.
Yeah,
because UTSA, the number 1 seed here, they didn't apply a bid to host. So even if they were a top 16 seed, they are not hosting at their facilities. They're basically like high school facilities, as Ben Upton calls them. So, yeah, so UTSA is not playing for a host. They already won the regular season title. They have an RPI inside the top 25. They're good. Just play a game or 2, get your rotation, keep them on schedule. That way they can pitch a game, and then get out healthy. So I like FEU to come out of that top bracket and win this thing.
I think double elimination is tough in this situation, especially. But FAU, if they're throwing Trey Beard game 1 against Tulane, Tulane's tough, but I think Trey Beard is just an automatic. I mean, sub-3 ERA, 113 Ks at 29 walks and 80 innings. FAU is a good look here for game 1. Still think UTSA will get past Rice. These 2 teams playing game the next round, I think, is interesting because FAU starters after that really aren't that good. I
You're
mean,
right.
they're both north of 5 ERAs. So it really depends how much energy UTSA is willing to expend. So I think that's like the big factor. But if you're getting FAU at a dog price and it's relatively favorable, I think it's worth
475.
it. No. I'm talking about in game 2 against if they
Gotcha.
played UTSA. So that would really depend. The bottom of the bracket's more interesting. I have no love for ECU. I don't think ECU is good. I didn't like them coming into this year. USF with Corey Braun makes me like the Bulls in this spot, and I like Charlotte here with Gillespie. That game 2 really is a toss-up. I think I'd probably lean Charlotte there. I think Charlotte's just a teeny weeny bit better. So I think Charlotte probably advances from the bottom pool. But the thing is, like, if FAU can get past UTSA and kind of move on and win another game and get to that finals bracket where they go Trey Beard, then I think it could be FAU versus Charlotte. But you know what? I'm going to go with Charlotte here. I'm gonna give Charlotte a chance in this bracket. It's nothing like I'm not super convinced on it, but just kind of going off gut feel and pitching. I think I like Charlotte.
Yeah. No, another reason that went into my FAU pick was their offense has been has supplied the most power this season. They've got 5 more home runs than any other team in AAC play. So that was like an easy, separation that I used is they'll be able to trot out, one of the top pitchers in the conference twice during this tournament. And if they can slug their way to a final, I like them. Charlotte's not a bad look. I like South Florida as well. But if they draw Ethan Norby, which I think they do, they would have to come through the losers bracket right away, which is not where you want to be. But yeah, East Carolina is kind of, not the team that we're used to seeing. So if you're casually just tuning in to college baseball and conference tournament play, they finished 6th in the regular season in this league. The offense has kind of really not been great. The defense, I know they have some shortstop issues specifically, not great on the defensive side of the ball. I know that Cliff Godwin has kind of, called the team out to the media multiple times this season. It's just not the greatest year down there in Greenville. So everybody's allowed a rebuilding year, and they'll be back.
I think real quick, the USF's interesting because they have pretty deep pitching. They have some options outside of Corey Braun. So if they beat ECU and say they face Charlotte in game 2, chances are they can go with Jack Nedro or they can go with Bryce Archie or any one of these guys. Like, they have a handful of really solid arms. So I think USF is appealing in that regard. Like, offensively, they're not that good. They don't hit for a ton of power. They only have a couple guys hitting for good average, but they steal a ton of bases. So I think this AAC is going to be a very roller coaster type of tournament here. But I don't know. I think Charlotte they got a really good Friday guy. They got some good pop. So I think that could ultimately help them. And not to mention they have 3 guys, or they have 2. Their main 2 starters are Gillespie's got a 2.53 ERA, and Andrew Cribbs has got a 4.13, which is
he's a Tennessee
solid.
transfer too. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, South Florida, their manager, coach in college baseball, Mitch Hannes, is one of the best in the biz. He's been there, done that. He was the Indiana State guy recently. This is his first year down in Tampa with the Bulls. And, he's consistently been one of the better coaches in tournament play up there in the Missouri Valley Conference for sure. We have the Conference USA tournament bracket up next. This one's really interesting because I think that bottom bracket's loaded. The 1 seed Dallas Baptist plays the 8 Liberty. who has been really good in midweek games this season. Jacksonville State is the 4, Louisiana Tech is the 5, and then the other bracket, the other pool, I should say, is Western Kentucky, the 2 seed, up against New Mexico State, the 7, Kennesaw State, the 3 seed, up against Florida International, the 6, and the Conference USA betting odds go as follows. DBU is minus 105, WKU is plus 150. Huge drop off. Kennesaw State 12-1, Liberty 14-1, Jack State 14-1, La Tech 15-1, FIU 18-1, and New Mexico State 100-1. I like Western Kentucky. I think the top's got a really favorable draw, and they desperately need this thing because I think they're on the outside looking in on the NCAA tournament picture. They're going to be that College of Charleston from last year. 40-plus wins, weak non-conference strength of schedule. They unfortunately get left out if they leave it up to the committee. So the 2 seed Western Kentucky gets a beautiful draw. They will face FIU ultimately probably in this pool, and that was the team that kind of, daggered their season with a sweep over WKU. But I like their chances second time around against the Panthers. Give me the tops. Western Kentucky.
Dude, Western Kentucky completely melted down starting that FIU series. They were a no-doubter getting in. Looked like they were going to win the Conference USA. It looked like a team that was going to be a real interesting mid-major, 3 or 4 seed in a probably 3 seed in a region. And now they're fighting to really get in there. I'll say this. I agree with you on Western Kentucky. They should beat New Mexico State. Any love for Kennesaw State at 12-1?
They're the other team.
They're frisky.
My other team.
Kennesaw State's frisky, man. They don't stand out in any regard in offense. They do a little bit of everything, like 277 average, 59 homers, 61 steals. It's a little bit of everything. Donovan Cash has been on fire, 322 average, 1091 OPS, 17 bops. Nate Anderson, 325 average, 11 bops, 24 bags. Kennesaw State's interesting. I think what I would probably do, because if you're betting Western Kentucky, they have to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games.
You could win it in 4. So it's a regional. So you can sweep a regional in 3, and then it's one more game after that against the winner of the other pool. But if you don't win it in 3, then you have to play 5. And then,
but they definitely have to play at least 4 to win it, maybe 5.
Yes.
Listen, they have the pitching.
When they do.
Pitching goes up, absolutely. But Sunday Punters said something interesting. Put that comment up there for me, the top comment. I think that's true. I think a lot of people are going to be betting Western Kentucky because a lot of people are going to echo the sentiment that Dallas Baptist isn't going to win. They're even if they win this conference tournament, they're probably not going to host. I think there's just too many Power 4 teams that have their hat in the ring that are probably going to be able to get a hosting bid over them. I really don't think DBU is going to host. I think it would be an outside shot, a big outside shot. So in that regard, I think it's between Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State. And let's ignore the price for a minute. Let's ignore the fact that Western Kentucky is going to be very public this weekend. They're just not playing good baseball. On paper, their roster is built for a tournament like this because nobody's got the pitching like them in this format. But they're not playing good ball. And all facets of their game have really been neutralized lately. And the only guy on offense that's really doing consistently well is Ryan Weidman. They're getting a couple guys that are performing to a decent standard, but it's really all Ryan Weidman. And the fact is, this team doesn't hit home runs. And when you get into the conference tournament where it's not a marathon, it's a sprint, you need guys that can put the ball over the fence. Western Kentucky does not have that. So I think Kennesaw State, who's pretty well balanced. Their pitching isn't fantastic, but they have a couple of decent guys. I think at 12-1, Kennesaw State is the only bet that I would make. Plus, not to mention, like, Western Kentucky's barely scratching plus money. If they end up making it deep enough, you can just probably bet them at a reasonable price later on in the tournament. So Western Kentucky 12-1 is Kennesaw State 12-1 is the only play that I would make here for the futures in this market.
Yeah, that tournament begins on Wednesday. Again, tune in to the college baseball experience. We'll be doing nightly episodes with handicaps on possible pitchers for all these matchups. Some of the AAC matchups and Sunbelt playing games we did not talk about. The AAC are kind of inflated on opening day. We'll wrap it up at the end with our mid-major Tuesday looks. The Big West tournament, the first ever, the inaugural Big West tournament, is taking place in Fullerton, California. The number 1 seed is UC Irvine. The number 2 seed is Cal Poly. They will play the number 3 seed Fullerton. And the number 4 and 5 seeds, Hawaii and UC Santa Barbara, will play in a single elimination play-in game on Wednesday to even qualify for the Big West tournament. So you could see Hawaii, who flies in from the islands to the mainland, plays a game at noon, and we then say, see you later, and your season's over. That would be brutal, but that very well could happen. Johnny, your thoughts here as it is played in Fullerton. Are the Titans live? They just won a series at Irvine. Or who do you think is going to win the conference tournament here?
So let's break this down. Santa Barbara is in that team outside looking in, I think we can both fairly say. They're probably going to throw Tyler Bremner here, closer to home. Hawaii traveling. That's just because they play out west, dude. That's not a close flight. That's a 5-hour flight from Hawaii to California. So that is not a close flight. That's almost the equivalent of Stanford having to fly across country to Durham. That's around the same time. So just to give you an idea, Tyler Bremner is probably going to get sent to the mounds. Santa Barbara's probably got to win this tournament in order to qualify. I think they'd be a bid stealer. It's probably got to be something along those lines. So I think Santa Barbara goes with Bremner game 1. Move on to Irvine game 2. Irvine's been playing like shit, dude. Irvine's lucky they're playing in the Big West. They had probably a top 12, top 13 host seed before 3 weeks ago. And they've completely fumbled the bag. And they've melted down. So now they're not even going to host.
So Chase Call, who's like one of their better players, senior leader, he's missed, I think it's 9 games now. So in his time, it was the UC San Diego game 1 where he got hurt and exited the game early. They are 6-4 in those 10 games, which for Irvine, that's not great. Series losses against UC San Diego, who didn't qualify for this tournament, at home, and then at home against Fullerton. So, yeah.
So Irvine at plus 115 is interesting, but they've been playing bad altogether. Their pitching hasn't been good, and I can certainly see them win. I'm not about laying 115 with Irvine. I don't think Santa Barbara would beat them necessarily, but if they're sending Calvin Prosky or Jackson Flora to the mound, it's definitely a tough matchup there. I think just Irvine's completely been off. They're this team that was hot throughout the year, and they're fading and getting cold at the wrong time, especially as a team that has to go on the road. So Irvine, I'm not buying at plus 115. Cal Poly, I think Cal Poly is interesting, but they're only 205. That's not really where I'm looking to go.
It's a 5-team tournament, though. So
no, I know, but it's not really where I'm looking to go in this tournament. I think they definitely have a winnable side, but I think Fullerton at 650 is interesting.
It's pool play, so it doesn't need to be side, but I'll let you go.
Fullerton they're not that great, and they've been bad at home this year, and this is in their own home ballpark. Their pitching hasn't been great, but I think Fullerton, the way they've kind of been playing to close out the season, is very interesting. in a situation like this, they would only have to win 3 games in order to win. In a sprint like this at home, plus 650, it's worth a shot for me with Fullerton. I'm not betting Irvine at their price the way they've been playing, and I don't love Cal Poly enough to even take them at 205. So I think it's Fullerton or pass for me in a future sense.
I'm going to point you to Cal Poly. They've got the best offense in the league. They have the best batting average in the league, batting 335 as a team. Next closest is Irvine at 306. Like, there's clear separation there between the Mustangs and Irvine. And Griffin Ness is a solid number 1 for Poly. They've got a good rotation there. Quite a few guys that have thrown 40-plus innings. Only one of them really above a 5.10 ERA. And as a team, they've got 7 guys batting over 300. I like the Mustangs here in Larry Lee's bunch.
I don't hate it, man. I mean, I don't. If they get past this game 1, they're in good shape. It's all going to come down to this Cal Poly Fullerton game 1 here. I'm just saying for the odds, because I could see Irvine end up winning and beating Cal Poly. I just think it's 650 in your own home ballpark in a pool that's not just limited, but the talent among the top 4 teams, it's not that big of a disparity. If you look at the other conferences, there's a relatively big disparity among some of these top and bottom teams. It's here in the Big West, it's a lot closer.
To your point, I love the field of 5 teams. I think this is an outstanding first year for the Big West tournament. I think there are 5 quality teams that could have been NCAA tournament teams, but the resumes don't really match up to it. I'm really excited to watch some of these games. For me, though, the odds all year, whether it's just regular games or these tournaments, the hold is large. So you're not going to get a fair value price to play a team to win a tournament. So I'm not really looking for that. I'm just looking for winners.
No, I get it. I get it. I mean, I think Cal Poly's definitely interesting. I think you have a good handicap. I think it's a good look. I just think, but that's a big number, dude. You're getting 650. This team that just beat Irvine. This team's up playing in their own home ballpark. I think it's worth a chance. What I would probably rather do is if Cal Poly wins this game, then maybe I'll take a shot, on them after that game. They're probably going to be a close number against Irvine. And then in that case, for these teams that are playing these kind of tournaments, I would probably rather wait to see if we get a futures line if they beat Fullerton, and then say that's like 125, right? If they beat Fullerton, then I'd rather just take that, because at that point I think they can win it there. But I think taking Fullerton first to see if you get 650, because if Fullerton wins the first game at 650, they're going to get cut in half and probably be 3-1.
If they even offer it again, because I don't think they will.
If they offer it, but I mean, Irvine, I'm not buying Irvine. I'm not buying Santa Barbara here. So I think the winner is probably going to come from Cal Poly Fullerton.
Let's talk about one of the most entertaining tournaments of conference tournament weekend every single year. It is the SoCon, because there are blitzkrieg fests in this tournament every single season. These games often finish in the teens, not your typical baseball score. Your 1 seed is East Tennessee State. The 2 is Samford. The 3 is the Citadel. 4, Mercer. 5 seeds Western Carolina. 8 seed is VMI. They're playing each other in the opening round on Wednesday. And then UNC Greensboro and Wofford had uncharacteristically down seasons. They're playing in the first round game. This is a double elimination bracket. No betting odds here. And I'm going chalky. I like East Tennessee State. I really think that their rotation and kind of pitching staff in general has been a cut above the conference for much of this season. And also their offense has been one of the nation's best this year. If you have the pitching enough to hinder the rest of the conference and the offensive explosions that happen in this tournament, I think the Buccaneers are going to be all right, because their offense can also tally up runs with them. So give me ETSU. They've got the furthest bye. They begin Friday. They're SoCon tournament games. So I like the Bucks in this. Johnny, any thoughts on the SoCon before we get out of here?
No, I think this is a good look, man. I mean, it's just, ETSU is locked in. They're not going to change their seed one way or another. But I just think they're head and shoulders above the rest of the class here in this conference. I mean, they're doing everything. Their offense, it's interesting because this offense is very reminiscent of like what Campbell was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
A team that hits for average, team that hits for power, a team that has speed, a team that can come at you with so many different sources of production. They have 111 homers. They have 83 bags. They're batting 312. They have like 7 or 8 different guys batting 300 or better. They're pitching. Their 3 weekend rotation guys all have 4.2 ERAs or better, and they have a handful of relievers that are dominating. So, like, ETSU is going to be one of these very interesting 4 seeds. Remains to be seen who they're going to play in a 1 seed, but I mean, I got news for you, man. They're going to be a live 4 seed. Like every year,
I think they're a 3. I think they're good enough to be a 3.
Are they going to be a 3?
Yeah.
Well, that all depends. But every year we get one of these out of nowhere teams in like this slapdick conference that ends up being really good. Like last year we got Evansville. So like this could be this year's Evansville. And these are going to be these fun teams because like the truth is they haven't played real competition all year, A, and B, the books don't know how to handicap these kind of teams. So then you're going to get these ridiculous numbers. You're going to get these big prices. You're going to get these money line numbers that are out of whack. The run lines are going to be off. So these are going to be teams like ETSU to be able to bet in at least the regionals. And I mean, listen, dude, if they get matched up in like, say, I don't know.
They would probably head to Nashville.
Vanderbilt?
Yeah, Vanderbilt regional, or they would end up like in a Carolina, like in North Carolina or a Clemson.
I mean, well, Clemson's not going to host.
Clemson could host 100%.
Yeah, they could, but if they have a good showing this weekend, they're probably not going to host at this point.
I think they have a top 14 RPI. Like they're they're hosting.
I don't know. Well, for argument's sake, let's say they're not hosting. But if they are hosting, like they're going to be live in Clemson's region if that was the case. I think honestly they could be live in Vanderbilt's region. I mean, this team is very interesting, and the jump in competition is obviously going to be something to monitor. But I mean, it's going to be an appealing team to be looking at for one of these lower seeds to pull off a big upset.
Yeah, Tennessee is also on the outside looking in at a top 16, but they could host, and East Tennessee State's the easy fit geographically into Knoxville. The last tournament on our slate here that we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into Tuesday mid-major games that we like betting-wise. But the ASUN, it's a 2-horse race. I think this conference is great. Typically, they have better years. Like I know Florida Gulf Coast can have a good program along with Jacksonville. Lipscomb's had a great year this season too. But it really does seem like it's a collision course waiting to happen. We didn't see them all year in the regular season play each other. Austin Peay, Stetson. To me, I had Stetson as an Omaha team in the preseason. I'm not going to waver off of that. They have the pitcher of the year in the conference in Jonathan Gonzalez. Offensively, they've got Isaiah Barquette, who's got one of the best approaches at the plate, whether it comes to, just the strikeout to walk ratio, also the batting average is crazy. But Austin Peay, 11.7 just named Cameron Nickens the mid-major player of the year. Like they have a very quality lineup and the pitching's been better this year. Johnny, I'm interested to see like which team out of those two you feel best about. This is a double elimination bracket. Your thoughts?
Austin Peay is always fun. The Governors, again, they're like that Campbell team every year where like their offense is so good, but they're just like never able to pitch. I don't have faith enough in their pitching staff. It's just something that's always eluded them. I mean, you got Lyndon Glidewell, who's got a 3.44 ERA, but that's like the only starter they have that's remotely competitive. So a team like this historically has to score a lot of runs. And Cameron Nickens has had an unreal year, and they have a couple guys. They have a handful of guys. They have John Bay. John Bay's always like one of the ASUN stars every year. He's got 22 bops this year, batting 360. So, like, their offense can score, no doubt about it. Like, we saw this from Austin P last year. But I think, you look at a team like Stetson, who we ended up seeing the first weekend down in Puerto Rico. Team runs some more. 123 bags. Not much in the way of homers. Average is slightly decent, but I mean, they do have 5 guys with a 300 average or better. The pitching's interesting. Jonathan Gonzalez, like you said, pitcher of the year. He's had a fantastic season. And the pitching in the opening weekend was something that was like really a concern. And, for a couple of reasons, but they have a handful of arms that I think you'd feel confident about as the season evolved, that you'd be good with throwing in this spot here. And really what it's going to come down to, Stetson's going to play Central Arkansas. I think they'll get out of their bracket, beat Gulf Coast or Lipscomb, make it to the finals. Austin P, though, who are they going to throw in that finals matchup? That is the question.
They'll probably throw
Weaver. I mean, he's probably
they're number one. Gosh, why does his name escape me?
Glidewell.
Yeah, they'll throw him. So they open up on Tuesday. They'll throw him against the Ospreys, and then in the championship game, they'll bring him back on MLB refs. 4 days.
Is it MLB? Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, he had 2 days in between.
Championships on Sunday. So,
is it on Sunday?
Yeah, this bracket. I cut off the bracket. It's double elimination.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, in any case, I think I like Stetson a little bit more with their pitching as opposed to Austin P. We see it all the time in these tournaments. The pitching usually wins, not the offense. The offense is important, but you got to have pitching that can get outs. And Stetson definitely has that more than Austin P. And, they don't do it in a bruising fashion on offense, but they can run you into the ground. So I think the matchup here is a little bit better suited for Stetson.
Let's talk about some of the mid-major matchups on Tuesday. Like I mentioned, some of these are inflated, and they're definitely probably not going to be your best straight look. But I'll be asking Johnny for his favorite pick, whether it be a total or money line at the end of this. But Tulane is playing Florida Atlantic in the AAC. FAU's minus 238, Tulane plus 130. The total is 14. We have Rice in UTSA, also in the AAC. Rice is plus 500 against the Roadrunners, who's minus 18, total at 16.5. Indiana State, minus 110. Illinois State, minus 120. UT Arlington and Tarleton State are minus 115 apiece. App State and Texas State in one of those Sunbelt play-in games. App State is minus 105, and the Bobcats are minus 125. Wichita State and Charlotte, the 49ers are minus 280. Shockers are plus 210. Bradley, plus 110 against Belmont, minus 140 in the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament. Utah Tech, plus 220. Cal Baptist, minus 298. Georgia Southern, minus 120. Arkansas State, minus 110. That's also another Sunbelt play-in game. East Carolina, minus 145 against South Florida, plus 114. And that's the final game for the mid-majors on Tuesday. My favorite pick there, I think, is the plus money on Corey Braun and the Bulls, plus 114 there against East Carolina. Yeah, I know Ethan Norby and East Carolina, that's your more popular team and pitcher, and that's kind of what's drawing that minus money price. But I'll take a really solid coach in his own right. I know Cliff Godwin's great for ECU as well, but Mitch Hanna's South Florida, I think they get it done game one, and they stay in the winner's bracket.
I tend to agree with you. I saw that right away. You're getting South Florida plus money, neutral field. Norby's been good this year, 3.65 ERA, coming off a rough one against UTSA, which a lot of pitchers have. But, this is a matchup I think that can ultimately favor South Florida. Corey Braun has been I think, better than Norby has in most regards. The offense for the Pirates is not that good this year. So I think, strictly speaking, the pitching matchup is pretty even. I mean, you might even be able to give Corey Braun the matchup, and you're getting potentially the better pitcher at plus money with an offense that is at least on the same level, if not a little bit better. I think for me, that's a no-brainer. So I like South Florida too.
That's going to wrap up this conference tournament preview episode. Johnny, I appreciate your time as always, co-host of the College Baseball Experience, but also this is going on your YouTube channel as well, Johnny Venezia. And yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on, chopping it up with me, and going in depth on some of the top 10 conference tournaments here in college baseball beginning this week. Go ahead, plug anything that you're up to, any plans for the week. And yeah.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, _JohnnyVTV. Check out my podcast every week, Breaking Bet, handicapping all the best college baseball stuff. And my RotoWire articles, always putting out the good shit, the breakdowns, a little bit more in depth on the written word on rotowire.com.
And yeah, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the College Baseball Experience. You can follow me at NoahB77_ on all social media platforms. You can also follow the show at TCE on SGPN. This has been the College Baseball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we